Introduce yourself and then go with your story.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cody Iverson, and I have always known that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And when I was in school, I never really paid much attention. I didn't really care. I always sat in the back of class, and I wondered how any of this was ever going to be relevant in my future. And I didn't get my first job until I was a fifth-year senior of college. And my first job came out of surprise, and I had always known that I wanted to be in a management position, and that's luckily what I got. I was given the great opportunity, one that would usually take people multiple years to have that kind of experience. And once I got in action, it was pretty easy, and I loved every moment of it. I really enjoyed spending time working. I worked overtime, and I didn't really get much in return out of my boss. He was a pretty terrible boss. He gave me a lot of leeway, and I was able to make a lot of hard decisions and learn how to manage people. But he was doing a very poor job of managing me. I also didn't get paid for any of the time, much of the time that I worked. And it ended up taking me a while to leave. I enjoyed the experience, and I understood that what I wasn't making in money, I was making up in experience. So during my first job, I also read my first book, and it was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And during school, I had never spent much time reading. You know, I'd always skimmed and always looked for just the answers. This was the first book that I read cover to cover, and it really taught me the importance of approaching each situation with people in their best interest, and always starting off a conversation with something positive, speaking in terms of what they want to hear. And going into my second job, that's when I realized what a good boss was. He was someone who was there for me. He was a mentor. His name was Mike Friday. And this was my first experience with someone who was really there to coach me and mentor me towards reaching a higher goal and helping me become a better person. However, I didn't quite return the favor to him. During that time I was working with Mike, I wasn't fully committed. I didn't put in much effort. I was able to work from home, and it's pretty obvious when you don't put in enough effort. It's pretty obvious when you don't put in enough effort when you're working for someone else, and you end up disappointing them and yourself, and it's not a really great feeling. So during that time, I was actually trying to start my own business because I had always known this is where I belonged. And although working for these other people was great, it wasn't what I had wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I ended up getting fired from that second job, and it was a totally mutual understanding. I told him, you know, I understand I wasn't performing, and you know, it was a pretty humbling experience, and I've been best friends with Mike ever since. He's been a great mentor to me. When I started my first business, I did it all the wrong ways. I didn't do any market research. I didn't even know about marketing. I didn't even know how to market. I didn't even quite know what I was getting myself into, but I went head in, and I built a nice looking brand from the outside. However, it had no sales. It had no marketing. It didn't have much of anything. It was just kind of like a project. And so the business relied heavily on cold calling. And I realized that I absolutely hated cold calling. And therefore, there was really no way that this business was going to ever take off if it relied so heavily on something that I didn't enjoy doing. So that was something important that I learned that you can't rely on something that you hate doing in order to succeed. What you can do is keep working at something until you're the best at it, and then you can move forward with it, move along the way with it, and get better while you're doing it. But if you're not able to be paid for your service, then you should likely outsource it, is something that I learned. And another thing that I learned during this experience was that I got in too heavily with inventory, and I thought I needed all this inventory to be ready for orders when they came in, but if I wasn't selling, the orders never really came in, and it ended up just being a nightmare with a bunch of overhead and wasted money. So I realized that in order to validate products, I only needed to make enough of the product in order to validate its purpose or invalidate it and move on to the next product. I also learned that just because your product that you're going after is popular doesn't necessarily mean that everybody wants it and that it will sell. And that's what happened during my second business that I started. We got into selling t-shirts, and although everyone wears a t-shirt, people don't necessarily care to buy a t-shirt unless it really strikes a chord with them. And I realized that people care more about their cell phones or enjoyment than they necessarily do about how they feel or how they look, because they're more attached to items that constantly bring them joy and that they're always using. So the second company that I had was pretty much a failure as well. The margins weren't high enough, and we just didn't really know exactly what we were doing yet. So moving into my third and fourth and fifth company was when I made a transition into something that I did enjoy, and that was selling online. For me, it was a lot easier. I was able to avoid calls, cold calling, and I knew that I would be able to scale more quickly. So during these companies, I learned about the importance of creating a blue ocean and what a niche really was. And I came to realize that there were so many red oceans, which means that they were overpopulated with competition, and it was like a bloodbath of sharks and a lot of little fishes. The big sharks were eating the little fish, and that's why it's called the red ocean. So I learned that I had to create a blue ocean, and with those next three companies, I was on the right track, but they didn't necessarily solve a problem. And during this time, up until from my first job until this time, I hadn't really continued to improve myself. I wasn't reading. I wasn't taking the time to enforce daily habits that would help me succeed. I wasn't improving my health. And it showed me that once I did start to read again, and once I did start to take the time to take care of myself, that I was improving my life. And it came to show me that unless you... What's that?
No, you're good. Good. Sorry. I said I had a fear that I wasn't recording.
Oh.
But I am.
Okay. So it came to show me that if you want to improve your life, you need to constantly improve yourself. You need to be dedicated to it every day. It needs to be ingrained in you, because if you're not moving yourself forward, the progression stops, and altogether you lose momentum. And so paid for the first course. During this time, I paid for my first course and my first mentor. And for me, it was Facebook advertising courses that was the tiny hinge that swung the big door. The ability to learn directly from people who have already succeeded, as well as get their weekly input, was extremely eye-opening. It gives you the ability to really cut out all the, bullshit that you go through trying to figure things out. You're able to really just get the answers and know what's working and what has worked. And more importantly, if you have a mentor, you're able to speak with them and speak about real life situations that they can help you overcome when you don't have the answers, when you don't have a mentor. So where are we now? During this time, I also realized that I had too much outside problems with people from my past. Your friends and family, they may be there for you, but they're not always there for you in the right way. Too often they want to tell you what you can't do or what you shouldn't do because they're afraid you might get hurt, or they don't believe that they can do it. So, a couple of my friends, they always wanted to hang out and, go play frisbee golf or just hang out and drink. And I told them that, I'm going to spend a lot less time with you guys, and I'm going to focus on making myself better and achieving my dreams. And a couple of them were there to support me, and a couple of them told me that, there's a bunch of time to, do that, and that I should just hang out. And you'll find that those are the people that don't really ever progress forward. And it was pretty hard to say goodbye to some of my friends, but at the end of the day, a year from now or a year from then, it doesn't even bother me because they're still trying to do the same things and wishing for different results. And all you can really do is try to tell them and help move them forward. But otherwise, if they're telling you can't, that's just a negativity that you don't need. So I learned that if they're not helping you, they're hurting you, and you only need help in order to move forward. So that's when I started investing a lot more in my team, and I started growing my team, spending as much effort and time and money as I could in order to give them the tools and the resources that they would need to perform their absolute best. So, investing in team, making them better. When you make your team better, you also make yourself better, because that allows you to only focus on the three main things that contribute 80% of your effort towards your business. And you'll find that the other 20% of your efforts don't account for much, and they're just mostly a waste of time. And those are the types of things that you have to delegate to lower level or to talk about with your team to try and figure out more productive and efficient ways. So the importance of organizing with your team is critical to see results. And if you're unorganized and there's slow and there's no direction, then you're likely not going to see these results, and it'll lead to a failure. So the importance of being a leader really comes down to the ability to plan, create relationships, and see results. And being a leader isn't about always being heard or being the one who gives orders or anything like that. A leader is the one that listens, and it's important to say less and let them come to the realization of what is to be. It's more important to ask questions than to tell them, because people don't like being told things. It's hard for them to accept. So it's more complicated, but it's the right way to do it emotionally, intelligently. Or it's the correct way. The correct way to do it is by using emotional intelligence and leading them to the answer by asking them questions. It's important to have strict schedules. I learned with daily planning and goals. And for the longest time, I didn't even know how to correctly write my goals. I didn't quite get the difference between a goal and a target. The difference is that a target is something that you'll achieve within the next day or the week, and a goal is more long term. And it's really important for me to write my goals down once in the morning when I first wake up, first thing, and then before you go to bed as well, because the last thought that you have before you go to sleep is the first thought that you have when you wake up, and that goes for your feelings as well. So a lot of people will tell themselves that, you know, they need 8 hours of sleep, and it's really not always necessarily true, because if you get in the mindset that you need 8 hours of sleep and you're looking at your alarm or you're looking at your clock, I should say, and you only have 5 hours of sleep, you're already telling yourself that, man, I'm going to be tired, and you're going to wake up feeling tired. But if you're able to tell yourself before you go to bed, man, I'm going to feel great in the morning. I got these 5 hours of sleep. That's great. And tomorrow's going to be a great day. I have this, and this to do. You'll wake up feeling a lot better, and you'll wake up feeling energized, positive, and ready to go. So before you go to bed too, you gotta, for me, it's been really important that I've mapped out my next day completely. And in fact, that I've mapped out, you know, a week in advance, counting for every minute, because if it's not written down, you don't have the ability to keep track of it. The importance of writing down all of your thoughts and tasks is extremely crucial in closing any open loops in your brain. And an open loop is anything that is complete or hasn't been written down that is taking away some sort of subconscious energy that it will drain you, and you won't really be able to, you know, complete much because you have so many open loops. So the importance of having your week fully planned out is that when things get added or you fall behind, you don't feel like you can just push them off to the next day, because your day's already full and there's not room for it. And that helped me create more strict deadlines and stay more on track. And really, it's vital to being able to produce at the level that you want, because the biggest mistake is underestimating how much time something is going to take you. And once you can estimate how long something will take you, you'll be able to always see results and always meet your deadlines. So I learned a lot during these first 5 companies, and moving into my next company was when I finally found success. And at this point, I had 2 business partners and a small team of a couple assistants who lived in third world countries, which was also pretty interesting at first. It took a little while to find the right people who could work for you, and without having the right people on your team, you won't be able to move forward, because you won't be able to properly delegate the tasks that you shouldn't be doing to the people that should be doing it. So little energy exchange pause. Got all of that. So business. So the problem with this business that I was currently in, that I had found success, was that it was a product that I didn't necessarily want to tie my name to. So at times it was difficult to really be happy with myself. And although it was great and I was making money and we were all making money, we were having a good time, we were all looking for something more, something that we could put our face next to, something that we could build a brand and repeat customers. And the importance of having lifetime customer value was something that we were lacking. And so, yeah, so we came to find that a business will die on a product that is viral and just has a short, excitement period. So during this time, I went to my first business event, and I came to realize that I had a long way to go. And although we were having some good success and we had made 100,000 in our first month of this business, these other people that I surrounded myself with during this event were doing much, much more, and they had been in the game for a lot longer. And really, it was the first time that I had felt like this is where I belonged, and these are the types of people that I want to spend my time with. And it was really great to be around a lot of people who are like-minded and know that, all these similar problems that we're having, they're also having. So it was pretty refreshing, and I came back having learned a bunch of new things and having visited Singapore, which was really cool. And prior to the trip, I had, thought that we were doing great, and it showed me that you can never rest in your achievement because you never know what's around the corner, and business is a living, breathing thing. So you got to treat it like it's a person. You got to oil it up, feed it, train it, give it knowledge, and what has gotten you there. But in order to get to where you want to be, you're going to need to continuously keep getting better. And that comes back to your daily self-improvement and your reading and your habits, really. And it was during this time that I found out about masterminds and what they were really all about, and how you were able to spend a bunch of time with a close mentor. It was really a more intimate one-on-one. And it was during this time that I read a book that I would say has contributed to a majority of all of my success in terms of my mindset. And it was 10X by Grant Cardone. And I learned a bunch of really incredible things that necessarily didn't seem to be so obvious, but they are. And it was that I wasn't dreaming big enough. I wasn't thinking big enough. And in order to get to the level of, the top 2%, I was going to have to dream and think a lot bigger. You're going to have to be willing to tell yourself that you deserve things that you had never even thought of before. You're going to have to set goals like you already have them. So when you're writing your goals in the morning or at night, you would write them in the tense that you've already gotten them. So if you had a money goal, then you would say, I have a net worth of, 100 million. But that would be, a 10X goal. So that way, then if you do come up short on that large goal, you've already passed your original goal that you would have had you not been thinking big enough. I also learned how to really sell yourself, and the importance of being able to approach someone with always getting a yes in the beginning of the conversation, and always agreeing with someone on the situation, because people don't like to be told that their idea is bad, or they don't like to hear the word no. So it's important that you always agree with someone and then state your opinion. The most important thing that I learned from that was that people that are negative are to be treated like they're toxic, because they are. And the power of positivity is something that's really greatly overlooked. And something that we did here between me and my team is we would have positivity challenges, or sorry, the no negativity challenge, where you'd set a clock timer for 24 hours and you'd have to get through the whole 24 hours without, saying anything negative. And it was definitely not the easiest thing, but it was really, really important for the environment and the culture of our team in order to keep progressing with a positive manner and finding ways to speak about a negative situation in a more positive light that would elicit solutions and solving the problem rather than being stuck on what the problem is, because you're pretty much always aware of the problem and you know what you're avoiding. So there's not much sense in thinking about, what could happen if we fail, because you know. And if you don't know, well, then that's a bigger issue. But so yeah, that was a pretty important part. And then really moving in, everything that I learned from there, I found that the more that I reached up and the more that I surrounded myself with high level players such as, Ben Malone or Forbes Riley, who I had met at Growth Con, that taught me how to pitch yourself and always be enrolling and how to have fun. And having fun is the easiest way to enroll people into who you are and your message. And really, the main thing that I learned from Forbes was that you have to be willing to break through your disbeliefs and realize that you are enough, and that you are enough has gotten you to where you are, and all you can do is improve on what already is. So there's been a number of other mentors that have led to my success, and really, for me, I realized that had I kept reading, or had I kept improving myself, or had I reached up and had a mentor earlier, that I would have been able to avoid a lot of mistakes that I've made over my time, and I would be farther along in my journey. And the results that you're getting today are a result of every decision you've made over the past, or in your past, and every little decision matters. So it's critical that you have a set goal, 5 years from now, of where you want to be, and you do everything you can to keep moving forward towards it and achieve it. And the best way to cut out a lot of slack is by reaching up, improving yourself every day, and surrounding yourself with mentors and people who have been there already. Now, my team and I have created a community that we are going to be building that will allow entrepreneurs and aspiring business owners to be a part of and reach up and find people who have already gone through the problems that they could be facing in order to find out about different areas of what owning a business is really entailing, and other areas that you need for personal development that you might not be really willing or knowing or knowledgeable about the importance of improving. So that's what Massive Action is all about. And our goal is to build the greatest team of entrepreneurs